Last week, we talked about how algorithm works, how brand can be impacted by them. And today we're going to talk about the part of the funnel that algorithms ignore. And if you really want to cover this or anything else, you can always go on my website and book a meeting with me. So how buyers make decisions. So buyers move from unaware to consideration to purchase. So it's a multiple stage buyer journey. And this is especially important for higher ticket. The higher is the ticket of your product, the more important that consideration set is. Because when you get into those high-end products, people will tend to buy within the consideration set. And that's what McKinsey paper mentioned. So 87% of consumers shop around and only 13 are true loyalists. That is very interesting because that means that it's actually very possible to take a market share from another company because loyalty is low. It's really like mental availability that is driving that. But also people are 2 times more likely to purchase if it was in the initial consideration set. And so that's very important because that means that your conversion rate doubles if you are part of that initial consideration set, hence mental availability. So if somebody wants a car, for example, well, if they think about you, you are twice more likely to be able to sell to that person if they didn't. And if you sell holidays, it's the same, jewelry, any clothes, etc. So being in that consideration set really boosts your revenue. So one thing that is important to note is that algorithms optimize at one thing at a time. And so if you tell them maximize conversion, it's going to do exactly that. And it's not going to focus on the rest of the funnel. And more precisely, it's going to optimize for attributed conversion. And that's extremely important because what the channel is going to try to do is to maximize conversion within the channel, which leads to an issue with incrementality, but also like drawing up the funnel. And this is particularly an issue, for example, if you have a lot of offline sales or if you sell on a lot of Amazon. And this can be a problem with the algo because if you tell the algo maximize conversion, is going to maximize attributable conversion. So what does this mean? It means that they're going to really focus on the users that are most likely to going to buy now. And everybody has a very small percentage share of people buying now. If you think about computers, jewelry, clothes, you don't buy these products every single day. But what is important is the consideration set. It's like once I want to buy something, what brand I'm thinking of. But those algorithms is not going to do that. It's just going to focus on the people who are most likely to buy now because it's going to look at really the easiest path to hit and maximize that number of purchase. So it's really going to focus on consideration to person. Meta, for example, we moved the 28 days attribution. We do it now, it's 7 days. So it's really focusing on people buying now, but everybody has a small percentage of people buying their product now. And so this is why the performance marketing with conversion and revenue targets completely miss the fact that people are going to buy within the consideration set. And Haus, I think it was last year, for example, showed that. They showed that, for example, for the Advantage Plus campaign in Facebook, that the incrementality was higher than manual campaign at the beginning of the test and then lower at the end. And that's because ASC was superior on finding the people who are buying now, but was inferior and more awareness. It was just drawing up the funnel. And this is why in my other video, I explained why brand is so important for performance marketing is because that brand creation is going to feed the funnel that the performance marketing will later convert from consideration to purchase. And this leads to incrementality issues. So that's a slide from Charlie Oscar, which is amazing, is that you can see that branded key terms on Google or PMAX with brand search or retargeting have like incrementality problem. Why? Because it's really focusing on converting the people now. But the thing is, people who are most likely to convert now are people who are going to buy anyway, hence the incrementality problem. And that leads us to feed the Deathzone. So a concept that I'm sharing a lot with people is that when you hit that level of spend, that doesn't drive any revenue. And usually it's because your funnel has dried out. And the way to get out of this is to lower the spend on those activities and invest more in your brand. And that will generate more revenue. So this list is based on really like our experience. So it's not limited to, it will vary on the industry, but things where we've seen impact on the awareness and consideration phase is Meta Reach campaign, YouTube, influencer, radio, out of home, PR, organic social, and Google Shopping. So Google Shopping was quite a discovery for us because we're really seeing at the beginning as a channel to close, to move from consideration to purchase. But actually what we found out is that Google Shopping was a very good tool to bring awareness of products because when you open a Google Shopping, actually, you can see a lot of products. And instead of, for example, a Google search where you're going to see just like the 10 suggestions. So that was a very good discovery on our side. But obviously, all of these findings are based on our clients and the industry we work in. So you got to test it, and we can help you and support you in those tests. And obviously, none of them can be optimized towards conversion revenue, because then it's not really an awareness and consideration test. And none of them will really show up properly in your attribution dashboard. The problem is that when you start optimizing for reach comes another problem. You can see on the chart here is that there are less clicks that are most likely to convert, and then there's a lot of clicks that are less likely to convert. And so for the same price, if you look at conversion, you'll have just very few clicks. And then if you look for non-converting, you'll have more clicks. So there's really a quality assessment to do, because if your impressions are very cheap, it means that nobody wants it. And so it's a big problem for programmatic campaigns, for example, because they're like, it's not even cheap traffic. People who are not going to buy from you, it's often like only bots. And so even on the dashboard, it looks great. You have a CPM, which is amazing. Well, actually, most of it is bot. And so there's a lot more quality check to do when you start to look for each campaign, because there are a lot of traps. So as I said, to ensure that the human is traffic and you redirect people, like first look at your channels. As I explained, programmatic is usually the classic offender. Look at where your traffic is coming from and who's buying. So for example, if you have mainly Apple buyers, well, any campaigns that have mainly Android traffic is highly suspicious. And so you really need to have a reach that is aligned with your buyers. And so the way it aligns with your buyers, it's going to be really like what device they're using, in which region they are, what is the income bracket. It's all of those things that you need to think of when you decide to target for reach, because you want to make sure that you're targeting the right people. And so the way you can start to track these impacts, that you can obviously start to see change in your traffic to your website, on your product pages, on your pricing pages. You can also, like, very importantly, track share of search, see if your share of search is improving against your competitors. Share of search is available at monthly level, but what I do also is that I look at spike in brand queries too. And that's very good, because the brand queries is daily level. So when you have like very specific reach initiative, like a massive boost on Meta and so on, you can really track it by the day, and then you can see the branded search that happened on Google following this. Another thing you can do is running incrementality tests on your share of search, on your brand search. The thing is, incrementality tests on revenue, because the idea is really like being in the consideration set, will not work. Of course, always going to be some revenue created by your awareness initiative. But the thing is, it's a more long-term approach. And so you shouldn't validate or not a reach initiative based on revenue. That's not the idea. What you want to do is make people aware and make people consider your product, not converting them. Because again, not everybody is buying something new today and doesn't need to buy anything. But you want them to think about you when they're like, hey, I want to buy this. Also, very importantly, and it works very well on the longer term, is qualitative interviews and questionnaires. So the problem with statistical methods is that when the signal is below the noise of the market, you can't evaluate the lift. And that happens a lot. So long-term effect in statistics is very questionable. So yeah, run qualitative interviews with questionnaires, ask buyers how they found you, why they consider you, why they're not considering you, and so on, and try to track if you see any changes. So here, it's a use case we have that is available in our playbook. It's a relationship between share of search and sales. Share of search is absolutely not a vanity metric. It is highly correlated with your revenue. It's one of the best proxy you can have for a share of market. And Liz Binet has written an extremely good book about this, and we've been applying that on our site successfully. So no, it's not a vanity metric. It is absolutely something you need to track when you try to look for growth. It's way less a vanity metric than your platform ROAS and your multi-touch attribution. So the next step, you can obviously follow me on LinkedIn. We also have a newsletter on Substack. Hit subscribe button on the YouTube channel. And if you want to talk to me, visit my website, book a meeting with me. Always happy to talk to new people. Even if you're not looking for a product, I'm always happy to have a great discussions and then talk about the challenge. I hope you enjoyed that video, and have a great day. Bye.